There we go. Okay, hi everyone. So today we're going to be talking about managing stress and anxiety in the job search. My name is Jillian Fariga. I'm the coordinator of career services and outreach. And Ruth, if you wanted to introduce yourself.
Sure. And I'm Ruth Berger-Gabor. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and also the director of counseling services and partner with Jillian.
So just to give you a little overview of what we're going to talk about today, on my end with career services, we're going to talk about some of those practical steps that you can take to prepare for your job search when it comes to preparing your materials, getting yourself as prepped as you can to try to alleviate some of that stress and alleviate some of that anxiety as you are moving into your job search, whether that's for an internship for the upcoming year or whether that's as you graduate and you're moving into a professional career. Then Ruth is going to take it over and talk about some steps to managing your anxiety and stress, talking about making a coping plan together and looking at your schedule and just going over some good tips for managing that stress and anxiety that comes along with this. So just so you're all aware, finding a career, it's always a little difficult, right? According to the University of Washington, the average college graduate is going to spend about 3 to 6 months after graduation before they find a job. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, job postings have decreased by about 20%, according to Indeed, while unemployment rates have risen. And so I don't say any of this to scare you all or to give you any fear, but to rather alleviate some of that. And, even in times that are more average, it does take time for folks to find a job. Just the application process and the interview process and all of that can take a lot of time. And these are uncertain times that we're in. And so that can add to this uncertainty that comes with finding an internship or finding a job. So making sure that you're giving yourself some grace as you are in this time, as we're all in this time together of uncertainty and transition. But there's also a lot of benefits that have come from this. One of the things to come out of this is that companies and organizations have become really proactive in finding ways for folks to work remotely. They've found ways to make their budgets stretch so that they can keep people on board and even hire positions that may not have existed before because of this remote environment that we're in. So things are changing, but just give yourself some grace as you're going through this time. The other thing that I want to highlight as well, there's a lot of struggles, of course, that come with finding a career, but these are some of the most common ones. Competition, there are a lot of students, and of course, graduation typically happens around the same time for most of our colleges and universities. So there's going to be a lot of people looking for positions at the same time as you, and it can become harder to stand out that way if you don't have the background experience or the skills that employers are looking for. But that takes us into the next point of work experience, and where Woodbury graduates really are able to stand apart because you all have to get a job or internship experience during your time in your undergraduate degree. It really helps you stand out compared to other graduates who don't have to complete an internship requirement and may not ever have a job during their undergraduate experience. So making sure that you are getting work experiences that are valuable to you, that are providing you transferable skills, and that you're articulating those well on your resume and in your interviews is going to really help you land into a career or land into an internship that's going to be personally and professionally fulfilling. Skills is another area where a lot of folks struggle, but where you all are probably at an advantage compared to some other students. Skills are usually learned through our professional work experiences, but we also learn them in the classroom, and you all have that advantage of small class sizes, working with your classmates collaboratively, getting to talk with your professors one-on-one, and learning these skills and then articulating them on your resume in the interviews, like I was talking about, is going to be a great way to help you stand out and is going to be less of a struggle for you all as long as we can make sure that we're articulating those things and acknowledging the skills that you do have and the skills that you could bring to a position, bring to a company. The other part of this is networking. And so networking is, again, something that you all should really be taking advantage of being at a smaller university like Woodbury. Networking is so important because a lot of jobs that folks land are actually found through networking rather than just applying online. where you become just like another name or just another resume that's in a pile. If you can network with folks, that helps to make you stand out that much more. And it'll be a great idea to network while you are in your undergraduate experience or while you're still in school. What I always tell folks is you want to build your network up before you actually need it. The other part that goes along with networking is following up. It's one thing to connect with someone on LinkedIn or to attend a presentation and grab someone's business card, but it's another thing to actually follow up with them, making sure that they remember your name, how you met, what they can provide for you in terms of mentorship, and maybe what you could provide for them in terms of a new perspective or your creativity or these other areas where you're really strong that you could enhance their work as well. So making sure that you're following up with folks after networking with them is really important. And that's an area where a lot of people struggle when they're finding a career, is that they don't follow up after an interview or after they've submitted an application or with people that they've networked with. So that's an area where you could really take a proactive approach to not having that same struggle. And of course, there's just a lot of uncertainty. Like I was saying before, even in times that are a little bit more traditional, there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with graduating and a lot of uncertainty that comes with searching for an internship. And so some of that as well can play into maybe your major isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, or maybe you did a work experience or an internship experience and found out you're not as passionate about the things that you used to be passionate about. And that's totally okay. I was in the same boat where I had almost finished my degree in one subject, found out I didn't like it so much anymore, but I, steered towards a different path. And so that's how I ended up here today in a field that I am really happy in an area that I do feel like I'm utilizing my strengths and working in things that I love. And so just knowing that your major doesn't correlate a career. It's more so the transferable skills that you have, the things that you're able to articulate, the unique experiences that you bring to the table. And some of that uncertainty, then you can alleviate that with knowing that you have that freedom and that flexibility to head towards some different areas rather than being stuck on one thing. So before you search, you always want to start early and plan ahead. The sooner you start preparing for your job search and your internship search, the more prepared you're going to be when it actually comes time and when it actually comes up. And of course, planning ahead, knowing that maybe you want a summer internship with an animation studio. So then you know that you maybe need to start looking the fall or the winter before that internship comes up, just because so many of these have early deadlines and early application periods. So making sure that you're planning that into your schedule for when you are going to apply and when you're going to start looking at positions is going to put you at an advantage. Also, making sure that you're talking to your professors or career services professionals. Your professors, have a wealth of knowledge just from their educational background and from their personal experiences. So talking to them can help you with networking, can help connect you to other opportunities, and can really just help you prepare for that search. And of course, career services or any other folks on campus that are there to help you with your career or professional needs, they are going to be great folks to talk to as well, because of the fact that this is, the stuff that we do. It'll help you prepare your materials, go over all of that, and just get ready for the search. Again, making sure that you're identifying the type of career that you want, because we want you to land somewhere where you're going to be professionally and personally fulfilled, rather than just fulfilling a graduation requirement or, just making some extra money. Making sure that we are identifying your skills, identifying your strengths, and using those towards a career that is meaningful and fulfilling for you. Some ways that I would recommend identifying your skills, it seems really obvious, but just asking your professors, your friends, your family members, loved ones, what they think your skills are, and then seeing how you can use that to apply it to your resume, apply it to your cover letter, your interviews. And there's also a lot of online personality assessments that you can take as well. Some of them that I recommend would be MBTI, the Strong Interest Inventory, or the Strengths Quest assessment, because those all do a really good job of highlighting your strengths and the skills that come along with those strengths. With networking, I just want to get into a little bit more detail on this because it is so important. So make sure that your social media profiles are up to date. Maybe you don't want that picture on Facebook anymore set to public from when you were in middle school and you had a bowling birthday party. Maybe you have your Instagram is public and you have some posts on there that you wouldn't want an employer to see. Make sure that your social media profiles are where you want them to be professionally, and also consider gearing them to be more professional. Maybe your Twitter account, you're going to follow professionals in your field so that you can retweet or reply to them or talk about other things on there that help enhance your professional image. Of course, with that comes LinkedIn, and of course, shameless plug for Handshake, but LinkedIn and Handshake are really great tools for networking as well, but you want to make sure that you're utilizing them appropriately. So update your skills and your summary, your interests, and your headlines so that they reflect the positions that you currently hold, the things that you've done, and just the most recent information about you. You also want to make sure that you are connecting with professors, classmates, and even graduates of your program or up from Woodbury University. And it's better to do this, especially with professors and classmates, sooner rather than later, so that they still remember who you are and are able to write accurate recommendations about you if you ask for recommendations. That's the last point that I want to highlight with utilizing your LinkedIn and Handshake, is that asking for recommendations is really going to help you stand out, because it's one thing to say, I think I'm really detail oriented, but it's another thing to have a professor say, I know so-and-so is really detail oriented because I saw it in their work, because I saw it through these projects they completed. So that can be a great way to make your profile stand out against someone else who maybe has really similar experiences and backgrounds. The last thing, of course, is conducting informational interviews. And while you're a student is the best time to do this, and you can say that career services recommended you conduct them, or your professors and faculty and staff recommended it. Because while you're a student, it's really nice to frame the idea of networking around, well, I'm a student, I want to get to your step one day. How do I get there? Give me some advice. And doing those informational interviews while you're a student helps broaden your network and build your network. They can potentially pass your resume, your portfolio along to other folks, or they can give you an idea of when positions are opening so that you know to be prepared when that time comes. Of course, we have a lot of resources that we've talked about, right? So you have your professors and you have alumni. You should be conducting informational interviews, and that'll build your resources up as well. Attending career fairs and other networking events is a really great way to build your resources and a great way to build your network. Just asking for business cards, asking for the contact information for folks that are doing these is going to be a great way to make sure that you're staying connected with them as long as you follow up. I always recommend folks set up job alerts on Google and other job searching websites before you need them. I had a mentor tell me one time that setting up a job alert on Google before you need it is a great idea, because that way you can see which positions are really consistently opening. You get used to the language that they're using, so it's easier for you to incorporate that into your resume and into your cover letter. It's just a good idea to stay on top of those things. The other thing as well, joining professional organizations as an undergraduate student, there's usually discounted rates, and it would be a great way to get mentorship from folks who have been in the field longer, and to learn more. They usually have professional development opportunities, and those are things that you can put on your resume, on your LinkedIn, and talk about in interviews. So, of course, all of this comes down to your application materials as well. You can prepare all of this other stuff, but once it comes time to actually applying, you need to make sure that your materials are ready. So make sure that your resume and cover letter are updated. Sometimes we push them off, and we no longer remember maybe the month and year that we left a position, because maybe it was sometime in November, maybe it was sometime in December. We're not too sure. If it was a position a really long time ago, maybe we can't remember the exact details of all the things that we were doing. So making sure that you update it on a regular basis is going to help keep you prepared and help to make you feel the most confident in your materials as you submit them. I also recommend creating a master document that has all of the bullet points that are appropriate for each of your roles to give you a wide range to choose from. So for example, if you have a position where you have a lot of leadership skills that you've learned, a lot of teamwork skills, and a lot of communication skills, but a job that you're applying for is really highlighting communication skills, you could then go to this master document, take all of those communication skills and put them on this resume that you are then tailoring for this position. But it's so much easier than just editing your resume every single time. If you just have it all in one document, that way you can pull from it. The other thing that I'd recommend that you do is creating a spreadsheet of places that you're interested in applying to and any contacts or connections that you have with the company, just to keep you organized. And this may look differently for you. Maybe it's not a spreadsheet and maybe it's a whiteboard so that you can add sticky notes on there and do lots of other things. Maybe it's a notes app in your phone. Whatever works best for you, just creating some way to keep track of all of this information so that as you begin applying, you can fill out the date that you applied, what documents you attached, who your references were if you included them, so that you can give them a heads up for the positions you're applying to so they can give you an accurate recommendation and an accurate reference, and the job description. Because sometimes what I've found that as I apply to positions, as they start interviewing, they take the position description down because they no longer want people to apply, and then you no longer have the job description if you haven't saved it somewhere. So I always recommend save it in a Word document, save it in a PDF, just so that that way, if you do get that interview, you'll be really prepared when the time comes up. So I know that was a lot of information. Some next steps that I recommend for you all. Feel free to contact me with any career-related questions or concerns. My contact information is here. Feel free to take a picture or send me an email or call. And if you want to book an appointment so that we can talk about your cover letter or job searching strategies or anything in between, feel free to book an appointment on Handshake. I also recommend that you take some time to reach out to your network and broaden your network to include professors and alumni and industry professionals and all the other folks that we've talked about today. And make sure that you are updating your application materials and your online profiles so that they are an accurate representation of who you are and really speak to your strengths and skills so that you can feel confident as you go into this job searching process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ruth.
Hey, thank you, Jillian, for that awesome presentation. That information is so useful. And I just want to say this to you and everyone. I know as a therapist in our department, our team, our stress has been significantly reduced just knowing that there's a career specialist on site who can help us with the students. So thank you so much for that. All right, so what is stress? Stress is a normal reaction that the body has when changes occur. We can respond to these changes physically, mentally, or emotionally. Stress is our body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or response. So, and a simple analogy that I always like to give when thinking about stress is you think about like a calm pool of water. You dip your finger in it, waves result, as a result of that impact of your finger touching the water. That's kind of just a simple way to think about like stress and its impact on you. It changes you in some way, either adversely or positively, depending, and we'll get into more of that later. Since stress is a normal part of life, prior to the pandemic, many of us who are already experiencing significant stress levels might have seen an increase in that, which affected many during this time, this challenging time that we've just been through together. Okay, so again, what are some causes of stress? We can experience stress from our environment, our body, and our thoughts. Even positive life events like starting college, maybe some of you are freshmen in the room or seniors, changing majors, starting a new job or internship, getting a promotion, paying rent can be stressful, especially in LA, Southern California. Starting a new relationship or having a child can bring stress. And as we mentioned, significant environmental changes like the pandemic that the whole world has been experiencing together can significantly increase our stress levels. Sorry, we can go to the next slide, Jillian. Thank you. Okay. So in contrast, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about anxiety, because sometimes we can confuse like normal stress, again, that's just a typical part of life, with anxiety, which is also normal and natural, but there are distinct differences between the two. Anxiety is our body's natural response to stress. So anxiety is a fear or apprehension about what's to come. Prior to COVID-19, normal events like the first day of attending courses, going to a job interview, giving a presentation might cause most of us to feel fearful and nervous. But anxiety can be normal and a healthy emotion. However, what I want to point out is that if any of us are regularly experiencing what we consider to be disproportionate levels of anxiety, like you're thinking about your anxiety all the time, you're preoccupied, you have racing thoughts, you can't, you're really nervous about, for instance, your job interview that's coming up and you don't know what to do and you're having panic attacks, definitely reach out to us and we can give you some coping skills around that. We'll get into some of those here in a minute. But my message is definitely reach out to someone if you're experiencing significant levels of anxiety, but it is normal for all of us to have some level of anxiety on any given day. Okay, so what are some effective ways to cope with stress and anxiety? Top of the list always is just simply breathing. Many students that I've worked with here have, been kind of received this intervention called anchored breathing. Anchored breathing is a very simple technique for just finding your calm in any type of situation. So be it before a job interview, be it before you take an exam, you feel a little nervous, stop, pause, pull in clean air through your nose, hold it as long as you can, and then let it out just as long through your mouth. And that's basically anchored breathing. It's called anchored because it grounds you, and breathing is a natural built-in response that nature has already given each of us on this meeting today to help us calm and reset. So that's why it's at the top of the list. Okay, other ways that we can cope with stress and anxiety, we can get organized. A nice thinking creative space for me is a clean space. Everyone's different, but sometimes it can be helpful to get organized so that we can have that clarity. And as Jillian mentioned earlier, with job interviews, you want to have all your documents in order, those kinds of things in advance. Those simple interventions can help significantly with reducing your stress and anxiety. With regard to job search, again, reading about the company beforehand. And I know Jillian talked in depth about this, so I won't go into depth as it relates to networking and all that. But definitely there's value in that, and that you can, just feel more confident going into that interview. You're not nervous, you know some details about the company or the person who's interviewing you, the job expectations can help significantly with just calming you to be ready for that interview. Spend some free time on hobbies, interests, and healthy distractions. There are two fancy words we like to use as therapists that kind of sum this up, and they're called self-care, that I'm sure we're all familiar with. Self-care is important. So this is just suggesting that you build in some time for yourself regularly to engage in those things that make you happy. So the day before your interview, because you've already gotten organized, you already have your stuff ready to go, maybe you can go to the beach, right? Maybe you can relax that day before, do something fun to have yourself calm, have a healthy distraction before you move forward with the next day. Learning a new skill can reduce anxiety significantly. Focusing on your coursework. So in other words, getting things done that have to be done before you engage in the things that you want to do or kind of extracurricular activities. It's always important to kind of get the necessities out of the way first. Meditation, mindfulness meditation, very, very, very powerful interventions, being present, being focused, being calm. There are a lot of apps that are available for that. And again, any of this that anyone's curious about, please reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to send you those resources. View or create art. Sometimes it can be really calming, even if you're not an art major or an architect or anything like that. I'm neither of those, and I love museums. Just kind of being there and looking at the artwork and just kind of being in awe of other people's creations can be very, very calming. And also creating art, drawing or painting can reduce your stress levels as well. Taking a walk, getting out in nature. During the pandemic, there were moments in here, particularly at the onset of this, where we were like trapped inside, right? We had curfews. Like, I remember that one alarm came through, 5 o'clock, nobody goes outside. It was like, oh my God. So there were times that we know we could not take a walk and, do these simple things that maybe we take for granted. But definitely now things have loosened up a little bit. Treat yourself to a 20-minute walk, 15 minutes, um, exercising. Any type of physical activity will get those endorphins going, those happy hormones, if you will, and help you to reduce your stress significantly. Reading, listening or creating music, and then again, just enjoying natural surroundings, being in the company of friends and family. All of these things, again, contribute to reducing your stress, getting you in a better position to be prepared for talking to a stranger, which we're doing essentially, right? When we go on a job interview. Okay, cognitive coping. I wanted to just kind of highlight a little bit of this area because a lot of what goes into calming our stress and anxiety levels has to do with what's going on in our mind, right? So just quickly, as a typical CBT intervention that we use a lot, with students, people in counseling all over the world, it's pretty common. There's this concept of a cognitive triangle. And that cognitive triangle pretty much shows you the relationship between our thoughts, our emotions, and then our behaviors. So just in general, just keep in mind, everything kind of stems from our thoughts. On that cognitive triangle, if I had a picture of it to show you, you would see thoughts right at the top of that triangle. That's because our brain's on top, right? Our thoughts are on top, and everything kind of stems from there. So keeping that in mind, it can be really, really, really effective for reducing stress and anxiety when we have kind of positive mantras, positive coping statements, simple statements like, I got an interview coming up, I will do well. I'm doing my best. I can only control me, right? So again, you give your best in that interview. I know Jillian, myself, we've all been there. For whatever reason, they pick somebody else. You're like, what? But as long as you go into that, knowing you're doing your best, I will do well, I can only control me, those thoughts are helpful for keeping you calm through that process. I can only control me, really important because, again, it's just as an example, we're not going to be able to control the outcomes of things, right? That's kind of outside. So just knowing that I can only control me can be very, very effective in reducing stress. Managing expectations. So this is a big one, not only for job search, but just in general. A lot of times, I'm sure there's a lot of high achievers in the room. We set our expectations very, very high, don't we? We've got to get that A+, everything's got to be A+ all the time. But again, going back to what we can control, not always likely to be the outcome, right? Depending on the scenario. So just having realistic expectations, or I even like to go a step further and suggest that, maybe have no expectations, maybe just kind of take this neutral stance to the job interview, the experience, because you've already prepared, you've already, done your calming exercises, you've done everything you could, if you will, to give it your best shot and just let what happen, happen, so to speak. Again, focusing on the present, that goes back to that mindfulness, just kind of being present, being in the now. Just a quick plug. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Eckhart Tolle. He's a kind of just a well-known philosopher. He has a very powerful book called The Power of Now. Many students who have worked with me have read that and know that that's a recommendation. But what's great about that book is it really, really goes into detail about just how powerful being present can be on a daily basis. So I definitely recommend that. Take COVID Zoom breaks, change your scenery. Okay, I know I was joking with Jillian a little earlier. I'm like the least technical person in the universe, and the pandemic has like thrown us all, right? Like whether we wanted to or not, full force into all things technology. So it's good to take a healthy break, from the screen time, step outside, change your scenery, even go to a different room and work in that room. All that can be helpful for reducing stress. Change your negative thoughts into positive ones. Again, we talked about positive affirmations earlier. Things like, I am capable, I am qualified. We can be our own worst enemy, as I'm sure we all know, psyching ourselves out, when it comes to things like job interviews, just by having negative thoughts. Again, everything stems from thoughts. How we feel stems from our thoughts. So if I feel, oh my God, I'm going to screw this up, I'm not going to get this job, this is crazy, you are going to screw it up. And you may not get the job, right? But if we have healthy, positive affirmation statements, I'm capable, I'm qualified, I've got this, it's okay, no big deal. I have options. You know, maybe I've got 4 interviews set up. If I don't get this one, I'll get another one. It's okay. Always healthy to go forward with those positive affirmations and helpful for reducing stress and anxiety. Know your red flags or personal triggers. In a minute here, we are just taking my time. We're gonna do what's called a self-care or coping plan together, so that you can kind of be in touch with your own personal red flags or triggers for when you're getting on the brink of being stressed or having significant anxiety. It's good to know what those are. Tied in with that is just writing down your thoughts and keeping what we call a mood log on a regular basis. Quickly, a mood log is a kind of a simplified version of a journal. Most of us are familiar with journaling. You write what you want, you write to your heart's content. Mood log is just the idea that you simply capture, maybe at the end of the day, your overall mood for that day. Like if you could think of one word, you know, today was okay, I was calm, today was awful, today was exciting, what would that be? And then maybe capture one event or trigger, if you will, that that led to that overall mood or feeling that you had for that day. That can be very, very, very powerful as a self-help intervention, being that you're able to kind of track and monitor your moods as well as what leads to those kinds of moods. And I always like to say, wherever you've got happy, great, calm, excited, you know, kind of these positive moods, do more of those things that resulted in that. And that's kind of how that works for you, keeping a mood log. Lastly, create expressive art. We talked about that earlier and the value in that. And then again, reach out for help, whether professionally or personally, because talking to someone can be helpful. All right, so now we're going to get into my coping plan. And I know we're in modern times, so if you have a sheet of paper, please pull a sheet of paper. But if you have your tablet or your phone or some other mechanism that you're used to kind of writing on, I wanted to just invite you to do that as we go through this now. So everybody ready with something to write on? I should probably make this bigger so I can see everybody. Okay, that helps. All right, so my coping plan. The first part that you're going to kind of just jot some things down to is completing this statement. So whenever I feel sad, I can do these things to cope. And again, sad is there just as like a, just kind of a filler emotion. So that could be whenever I feel stressed, right? Whenever I feel angry, whenever I feel down, whatever that is that's kind of personal for you, you can change that word out. But a lot of times when we're stressed, we're kind of sad. So that's why we put that one in, just to kind of get you thinking. So I can do these things to cope. So in there, you just want to briefly write down, what are some things that you don't normally do when you're feeling optimal that make you feel good? So again, going back to that mood log I was talking about earlier, what are some things that lead to you feeling excited, happy, in control, calm, pleasant? Just take a moment, jot those things down. And I won't give examples of things because I really want this to be personal for you. Okay, so whatever that is. And let me see where people are at. Okay, it looks like people are good with that one, so we'll move along. And then the next section of this is going to be, I can reach out to these individuals to help me feel better. So these are people who, and I like to kind of explain this in terms of a hierarchy, right? So we all have friends, and each one of them means something different to us, right? Friends and family alike, and even professionals alike, right? That we relate to on a daily basis. But when we're in a crisis or we're having a particular problem, we might have go-tos, if you will, right? So we might have that first friend that we'll reach out to right away. So the way to think about this is, if that person's not available, who would we reach out to next? And if that person's not available, who would we reach out to next? So just no less than 3 people. If people need to grab their smartphones for this part, again, this is personal for you. I really want this to be a tangible kind of document that you can use later in your life before that job interview kind of thing if you're feeling stressed. So feel free to jot down 3 people. Again, personally, professionally, family, it doesn't matter. Who are these people to you, and can they help you to feel better when you're feeling stressed, and put their phone numbers down. give a minute for if anybody wants to do that. And of course, if you don't want to do this now, you can do it later. That is totally fine. Okay, so we got some good folks down of who we can contact. And then the next part of this is I can think these helpful thoughts. Okay. And what this part is speaking to is just kind of going back to those positive affirmations that we looked at earlier, right? So again, an unhelpful thought before a job interview is, as I was saying earlier, I'm going to mess this up. I don't know why I'm bothering. This is ridiculous, right? All of that stuff is kind of adverse and unhelpful, right? So what are some helpful thoughts that you might have before the interview, before the midterm, before the project, whatever that is, that can help you to be in a positive space? And we had some examples of that earlier. Please just take a moment to jot a few down. Okay. And then last but not least, this next statement has to do with self-care that we talked about some moments ago. So it says, I can practice self-care regularly by engaging in the following healthy behaviors. So again, we did have some examples earlier. What are some things that we can do ongoingly, right? So we think about our schedule, we've got classes, we've got jobs, we've got maybe family commitments. So after all that's filled up, we still have some time, right? Maybe like an hour here, 2 hours there, a Saturday, whatever that might be. The idea behind this is that you plug in regularly some self-care kind of exercises or activities, interests, hobbies, weekly that you can engage in as prevention to keep you in a place of calm. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so my weekly schedule. This is just, I wanted to show you this so that we can kind of have a visual for what I talked about earlier. Building in that self-care. This you can do separately. Jillian is actually going to send you these documents later so that you have kind of the coping plan, tangible if you want to write on something, as well as the schedule. And what I want to encourage all of you to do, fill this in, fill it in with your courses that you're in. Basically, everything that you have to do in your life, you want to fill that in first, right? Our obligations, our commitments, our standing commitments, things like coursework, homework, jobs, family, counseling appointments, whatever that might be, you put all that on the schedule, right? And then you'll notice where you have holes, right? Maybe an out. Hopefully you have holes. Hopefully no one's so jammed up that they don't have time for self-care. Please reach out to me or Jillian if that's your life, and we'll help you with that. But you should have a couple of areas where you could fill in with some activities, biking, going up for a hike, taking in a movie, Netflix and chilling, whatever that is that brings you joy, calling someone, spending time with a family. The idea is that you would create a self-care schedule for you as well. That includes that personal time for you to focus on decreasing stress. And then lastly, even breathing. Some people will literally schedule 5 minutes or 10 minutes for meditation, relaxation. Highly encourage that. If you're like me, you've got to see it in order to do it, kind of thing. So definitely just want to make a plug for that as well. There is no right or wrong way to create a self-care schedule. Just make sure it works for you. Okay. And then lastly, counseling services. Just quick plug again. like Jillian, we're located, actually, I don't think Jillian's in the Witten Center. I think you're in COLA, right?
I am in the Witten Center.
Oh, okay, beautiful. Okay. So we're in the Witten Center together. I'm remote right now. But normally, when we're all back on campus, you can find the Counseling Services Department in the very back of the Witten Center. Our services are confidential. So if anyone's interested in that, you can email me. I think the next slide has my email information on it. But again, you'll get this after. But if anyone would like counseling, all of our services are confidential. We also do, some of you have, participated in the different workshops and groups that we do on campus around trauma. We do stress, reduction workshops, coping skills, all kinds of stuff. So we're here to support you. Both Julie and I have been through college. We know how it is. It can be very, very intense at times. And we're very, very fortunate to have counseling services, career services, student support services on campus. So take advantage of them. We're here for you. They're free. You don't have to pay, for counseling with us or career services. So just quick plug for that, and just want you to know that we're here for you, and you don't have to necessarily have a problem to reach out for help. A lot of people just want prevention, wellness, kind of coping techniques and ideas. So we're here to support you. So yeah. Do I have anything else? Okay, and then just our hours. We're Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. So quickly, I know some students reach out, they say, hey, can we have an appointment on Saturday? We do accommodate crises, on the weekends. God forbid there's something that goes terribly wrong. I work 24/7, so that's not an issue. But as far as appointments go, we are kind of confined Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. And during the pandemic, we offer virtual appointments. Just like we're doing this, we offer virtual appointments, which a lot of students have expressed are convenient. There have been 0 no-shows since we've gone virtual because no one gets stuck in traffic. So that's kind of a nice plus of providing the service in this way.